So I do what any respectable friend would do, and I just steal the drive shafts out of his car. So a couple months ago, a friend of mine has a car agent, and a car agent is somebody that when a movie set needs a car, a specific car, a type of car, a certain look of a car, they call this car agent, and the car agent goes out and finds whatever they're looking for. And they were looking for a hearse, but this particular buddy, his car was down, so he's like, "Hey, do you want to be in a movie?" I was like, "Yes, I want to be in a movie. Actually, I really want a speaking role in a movie, but I'm good with just the car being in there." And he tells me about the movie. It's a Mike Epps movie with Cat Williams, where Mike Epps is living in a house, and his next door neighbor is both a pimp and a vampire. I think this movie comes out in October of 2018. It's called The House Next Door. It's just really neat being on this movie set. It's freezing, miserably cold. It's getting dark, but they keep shooting these scenes over and over and over again. And the nice part about being on a movie set is they feed you well. There's just people to talk to, and there's just nothing to do while they're not shooting, because they'll shoot for 30 seconds and then 15 minutes to set up, and then they'll shoot for 30 seconds, take the same shot for 6 or 7 times, and then nothing for an hour. So I'm bored, and I'm just talking to a production assistant, and he looks at my car, he's like, "Are those 20s?" I was like, now this is an important detail. Mike Epps, probably his most famous role of all time was in the movie Friday. I had been thinking about this all day, that I love that movie and I love Mike Epps. The guy just cracks me up, no end. And so when he says, "Are those 20s?" I was like, "No, all right, they ain't 20s, but they 10s, but they're real nice though." He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. I spent all day waiting to tell this joke, and he doesn't get it. I was just highly disappointed. And if you've ever been to Athens, Georgia is a wonderful, wonderful place to party. And I'm the DD for the evening, and we run out of beer. So I was like, you know what, let's go get some beer. Athens is a good spot. There's beer everywhere. And so a friend of mine who was kind of lit jumps in the car. And we also figured that I had the most storage room of any of the automobiles there, so we can get a good bit of beer in this quest. And we were driving down Main Street in Athens, and the car goes through various states of hating my guts and loving me. So I think this was one of those days when it just decided it hated me. I think we're talking about, an argument my wife and I had where she had said, "You love that car more than me." I was like, "Nonsense. There's no way I love this car more than you." And the carburetor surged. The fun part about carbureted cars is when it surges, it just, you go from to whack. And in the process of doing so, it tears apart one of the drive shafts like a paper towel tube. It just comes unrolled like a pole vaulter trying to dig its way through Athens, Georgia. Great. Now, at this point in my life, I keep a bunch of coat hangers in the car because you never know when one's going to be necessary. Crawl up onto the car, attach to one, frame rail to the other, and hold the drive shaft in place of what's left of this mangled mess that used to be a drive shaft. And we push it onto a side bit of Athens. This is not a good part of Athens. There's, a nice part, and then there's a not so nice part. This is the not so nice part. And I don't want to leave my car there overnight. We call back to the house. I find another sober person to come get me and my friend, and we go back to the house, and then I have him drive me to a friend of mine's house who's got his car in pieces. And I know that it's going to be months before he gets his car back together. He's out of town. So I do what any respectable friend would do, and I just steal the drive shafts out of his car. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. I'm under a friend's car stealing a drive shaft so I can go back to Athens and put one back in. And to this day, I don't know that he knows that I ever took it, because I returned it a few weeks later when I had one built. Because every time I break something, I figure it's like, well, that was weak anyway. I should probably have it upgraded. And so I had a pair of custom drive shafts made. And they're supposed to be good for like 700 horsepower as long as they don't hit nitrous on it. There's 2 of them, and they're in between them is a carrier bearing out of a dump truck, because after eating a carrier bearing, I decided I should upgrade. So in the same way that I got the drive shaft at 2 o'clock in the morning, I go over to his house, put his drive shaft back in, make sure everything is tight. So Billy, if you're watching this, I totally borrowed your drive shaft, and I appreciate you for it, buddy.